Hey guys, welcome back to Release the Craftin. Priscilla here for another day of Moz and the Scratic, the scrap busting ephemera making challenge, hosted by me, Priscilla, here at Release the Craftin. And you guys, for today's prompt, today is day 23. We are doing vintage, and I thought about it. I had a long think about this prompt, because um I think I've been on the brain wavelength that everything I was making was sort of in the vintage style. And I was like, if you're only using plain paper scraps and, where applicable, and you don't have a box of vintage paper scraps, what are you going to do? Especially because you've been making stuff look vintage without it being vintage. And then it occurred to me that I do have a different kind of scrap that I guess we don't really talk about a lot, which is those last couple of remnants of things left in packages of like ephemera or supplies that you may get. Like these tags. I have had these tags in my stash for probably like 6 years. And I have been trying to use them, but I forget that they exist a lot of the time. So they ended up in my basket of things. These are the last little bits, the last little drugs of the package, and the idea of using them all up at once was delightful. Not that I can't use stuff like this. I absolutely can and do. I just don't like want to keep holding on to the last little bits of this package anymore. So the prospect of being able to get rid of it and therefore replace it with something else, if not the same exact thing that I'll spend another 6 years trying to remember to use, was, delightful. So yeah, these are my scraps. These are the scraps left over at the bottom of the package of ephemera. That's what I'm doing. That is the logic train I went on to justify this being my scraps for this, because, yeah, I want to get these out of my stash. And so being able to use them in this way helped. So I thought I would go with sort of this is the vintage item. These are old-fashioned tags and stuff like that. Like shipping tags, garment tags. They're old-fashioned types of tags that have been collected together by Mr. Timmy for our crafting pleasure. So that is the vintage part of this. And then I was like, okay, but they're vintage tags, but they don't look vintage and they don't look as grungy as I want everything in this challenge to look. Everything I've been making, I want it to look pretty grungy, where possible. So yeah, so I added some ink to grunge them up and stain them up a bit so that they looked a little bit older. So I'm making these vintage replicas look vintage, I think is sort of the concept here. And then I'm going to make them into like those over the page like tab type tags. I don't know if you guys have ever seen this. This is actually an old thing that I've seen. It's not actually vintage. But I mean, as far as like the crafting world goes for my brain, this is something I remember doing like when I started junk journaling. So this is a throwback for me, which I think also counts as like a vintage sort of bit of inspiration. And I like how these came out. I am not mad at these in the slightest. The thing that made me angry was having to put the strings in all of the pieces, which was not a requirement. Nobody made me do that, but I was like, these should have the strings. And I will probably be cutting the strings down at some point in the future. I did it in this video because I didn't want to. I don't want to spend time speculating about how I felt about the strings too much, because it was already a pain to get them through, especially those little teeny tiny holes. Yeah, that was rough. And one of them in particular, I think it's this one, the little teeny tiny hole is already butted up against the other card, and I didn't leave enough of a gap when I was gluing it down, but I thought I did, to just sort of pull it through. So yeah, I had to get some tools involved to get this to do what I needed it to do, which was to let the string go through. So yeah, it was a bit of a pain in the butt to get this little teeny tiny hole strung on this card. But after I got the strings in, I could go back and finish gluing them. So yeah, so I want to make these little page edge tab dudes, which could be tuck spots. I could just glue them all the way flat to the page, and they could just be a bit of like embellishment. Whatever. It is what it is. I also have this little scrap of like mesh netting type stuff. I don't know what this is. It's like a plastic sort of fiber that I had on a roll at one point, because I was using it a lot, but it's some sort of like melted netted plastic thing that I found in the floral section It's actually really cool. I really like it. This is my first attempt to make this tiger moth work. I am obsessed with this tiger moth. I really want to put it on something. I don't get to do it this one because it is way too big. But you can see my desire to use these big moths coming through. But I did use some pretty sizable moths for these because I had the space. There's a lot of real estate on these tags that I could use up, so that was good. Just to get some of these bigger guys out here. And this green one is so cool. I absolutely love how these came out. They have a nice vintagey vibe to them, even though that's new materials. So I think good job. We'll see what you guys think when you get to the end of it. But I'm pleased with how these came out. And then I decided that, of course, we needed a sparkly bit. We need a shiny, metally bit. Because you guys know how I feel about metallics. I like it when stuff is shiny. So, yeah. So I thought we'd make these a little bit more, like, mixed media-y by adding in shapes for our background stamping and embossing. So that's what I'm pulling from these stamp sets is some nice shapes that are probably meant to be other things, but I'm using them this way because I want to and I can. What else is happening? My allergies are happening. I can hear it in my voice. I could feel it. I have 3 drinks at my table for this specific reason because I'm so dried out, but also just from allergies, and I am so over it. It is currently a holiday here. It is a federal holiday, and yet somehow my job is still open, so I took the day off because I don't let men tell me what to do with my life. So yeah, I took the day off. Also, I wanted the day off, so let's be real about that. I think it's the end of the holiday season has made me realize that I don't have another, like, office holiday until May, which is deplorable. So I will be taking small holidays for myself because that's what I do when my PTO hits the account. I go, oh, time for a day off. Although this year I do have to remember to save some time off because my best friend will be coming down so we can go see Florence and the Machine in May. So yeah, I gotta make sure I have time off for that. Which is going to be very difficult because I don't like going to work. So, yeah. It's hard. It's hard when you just want to be like a girly pop and have a good time and craft and do art things, and then you have to go to an office job that sucks the life out of you. Mostly because you're dealing with people older than you who need constant supervision in a way that you did not think that they would need. And it makes you a little bit concerned about growing older. Because, yeah. All that to be said, I took the day off. And I am enjoying my day off. I'm doing some chores in between doing voiceovers for these videos. Because, like I said, I had to... I did sort of a speed run. An impressive speed run, I will say. Because I have not been feeling the greatest this month, as you guys know. So I had to, like, take a break and then catch up from that break, but I was already a little bit behind when the break happened, so I was like, oh no. So this is the first weekend I felt like normal enough to like sit and do crafting for a prolonged amount of time, for a bit longer than typical. And I am very proud and pleased to say that I did it. In fact, did quite a few videos to the point where I was like, well, dang, slow down because you still got a whole other weekend, which you could probably want to craft in and do videos and stuff in. So like, you don't have to do them all this weekend. So yeah, I did take a step back and enjoy some time off as well because, like, it's not all work. Although, granted, I don't think that this is work. This is what I love to do. And if I could do it all the time, I would. Check out my Patreon. I haven't plugged it in a minute. Don't hate me. But please check out my Patreon. So at any rate, yeah. So what did I do? I colored up these leaves because I wanted them to be like still on the vintage vibe, but I didn't want them to be craft paper. So we have some of the browns peeking through still, but like it has this nice cool mottled green, but it's muted because I went with the oxides first. If I had done the distress ink first, the color would be more vibrant, because the oxides are not transparent. So they're like the oxidization on the surface sort of dulls down distress ink. So if you're ever wondering how to approach like dyeing something and you're a little bit concerned or confused with like how your results are coming out when you're using distress oxides versus distress inks, that's the thing. If you want your color to be vibrant and pop, start with your distress inks first. and then add your oxide as like an accent on top, because it'll float on top of the, well, it won't float, but you know what I mean. It'll sit on top of the distress ink, but the main background will be more vibrant in color, because the distress inks are completely transparent, so they're just laying the color on top of your project. If you want it to be more muted, start with oxide, because the oxides will leave their oxidization. The white sort of murky opacity, like opaqueness, will be on the surface there, and when you put your distress inks on top, it'll add color, but it won't add vibrancy. So yeah, that's everything. That was an art thing with Priscilla, and that's going to be the end of the video. So let me know what you guys think of these little vintage page tabs, and I will catch you guys all on the next one. Check out the playlist in the description box below for hashtag Moz and the Scratic, see what everybody else is up to, and I appreciate your faces, guys. Until next time, happy crafting, and goodbye!